walk, so I'd like to do one.
Oh, you're going to do one on the 30th. So welcome everyone. I'm here with Sylwia Presley and Jayc Ryder, and we're in a Google Plus Hangout. Now that's an application that Google have put together for up to 10 people in a room, so we can have a nice conversation or talk about all sorts of things and drink coffee and eat Tim Tams or Jim Jams, whichever you choose. And so it's quite a neat little thing to play with. So Jayc, whereabouts are you from?
I'm in Brisbane, Australia.
Yeah, we go international. And Sylwia?
Yes.
I'm in Oxford, near Oxford in the UK.
And we were just sharing some photos before, so I might grab those in a little bit. But they're pretty neat. You may want to actually show up some photos and stuff. And I know Jayc's got some other stuff as well. So if you were to screen share yours with the 360 images.
Hold on.
Okay.
I'll go. If you actually switch the, I'm not sure if it's going to be nice because speed of my. There we go. See if you can see it. Just a minute.
Yeah, that's me.
There we go.
Oh, hello. This is.
That's amazing
The
stuff.
view. This is the view from our house. Hold on, I'll go back. This is our house. The little house in here. I'm sitting just here. And this is the main house. Yeah.
Oh, that
So
looks
it's kind
lovely.
of
That's
it's really
amazing.
pretty. So we can kind of go opposite. If it's because we're kind of in the shadow, we can always sit in the sun here, have lunch if we want to.
Mm-hmm.
The main path from town is behind that wall. So kind of, Friday evening can be loud a little bit. This is the tree that's protected. It's huge. And then down the garden, when you walk down there, I showed you another panorama. I'll show it in a minute. This is where you go. That's where they play summer performances for charity. Usually Shakespeare plays because they're kind of most popular. See if I can give you another one. Where was that? No, wasn't it?
That's me.
See, that's the one. See, can you see the stage?
Yes.
So as you walk down the garden... Oh, sorry, I rushed it off. Wow, sorry, gave you a headache there. So this is that's the big house, yeah. You walk down the steps. There's this big kind of green area, and there's the stage. So they put chairs down here and the lamps, and it's actually quite warm in the evening.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing how I've just understood how in the Middle Ages people used to perform outside, how difficult it is if it's windy or if weather conditions are not really good because you can hardly hear.
Mm-hmm.
They have to have special technique of breathing and talking and speaking so you can hear what they're saying on the stage. There was one performance when it was really windy. You know that windy when it's about to rain in a minute?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
The lady on the stage was in a long white dress. So it was so windy that the dress was kind of cuddling her around, going behind her back. And you could still hear her talking from the last row. I was so amazed.
Wow.
It was really amazing.
Wow.
And it's all for charity, so you have the local people coming over with their little chairs, the chairs that you take for fishing, and sitting down, having tea and coffee and rum to warm yourself up. And it's really nice. And this is the bottom of the garden. Right now, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, you can see that it's spring. You can see the flowers. It's a bit kind of... I was just testing the app, so you can see that there's some shadows. It's not perfect. You have to take photos really slowly. So if you move the angle, it kind of gets blurry, which is cool, but... And there's a stream down the garden. At the end of the garden, there is a stream. Sorry.
I've got a tripod that would solve that, though.
For your iPad?
No, for the iPhone. But my iPhone's got a wide-angle lens kit that fits with it. And so
nice.
it would be possible to actually make that work.
Yeah. Yeah, and it looks really nice on the mobiles and on iPads, because you can switch on the compass, so you can actually see the live angles as well when you look at it from mobile devices, which is impossible on the phone. This one's called 360 Panorama, but there's a lot of similar apps. And this area in here, it's so beautiful in spring.
I've got a similar app for the iPhone, and it just guides you when it wants to take a photo, and it just stitches them all together. It's great.
Yeah, it's really there's so many things you can do. And you know what? It's interesting as a photographer, because I got the new iPad only because of the kind of photo features and display. Taking photos with iPad, I know for traditional photographers it's a huge conversation to have, is completely different. It's a different process, because you can see in a really big dimensions the results of your work straight away. So it's completely different than taking a photo on your iPhone or taking a photo on even the good Nikon. It's just providing you're happy with the notion of clicking and checking straight away. It's an amazing process, especially with the stuff like that. Because if you go to some places traveling, you can't take the shot again. So you have to make sure that the panorama looks really nice. And if someone walks into the panorama, then they leave a very strange shadow. Yeah, it looks like ghosts. I took a panorama in Oxford, and they looked like ghosts. Really, I see if I can find it out.
Well, you're talking about my business there. Being a psychic medium, I talk to ghosts, so it's pretty normal in my world.
That's true. I wonder. So what do you do?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, I am. I'm a psychic medium. I've been channeling and doing psychic work for well over 20 years now.
Oh wow, that sounds really exciting.
Oh, you meet all sorts of interesting people. You get all sorts of interesting messages. Some people love me. Some people hate me. That
happens to everyone, huh?
Yeah, some people believe in what I do, and others are very beautiful skeptics. But yeah, I've spent well over 20 years doing this, and I was also in the IT world for most of that time as well.
I see.
So I was sort of leading a double life. One minute I'm fixing someone's computer, and the next minute I'm fixing their relationship. Or
I can see how that can connect. Yeah.
Well, it was a way for me to be meeting people constantly and forming relationships with people constantly, and the messages would come through, and it's amazing when you meet someone and you sort of go. I just did a reading for a lady a couple of days ago, and the first thing I heard when I looked at a photo was, "Clean your room."
Oh, wow.
And that was a mother coming through. And then there were a few other messages, and we got an email from her going, "Mum was always at me to clean my room."
Oh.
And so the messages were appropriate and worked. So it's kind of lovely to be able to share that from your heart, and you help people move past what's going on in their world.
Oh, that must be so good.
Oh, look, it's what was lovely. I was in LA at the Conscious Life Expo in February, and I spent a couple of days there at the expo doing readings, and I had people I'd do a reading for them, and then they'd just either burst into tears with relief. I had a 6'4" guy burst into tears at one stage with relief with the reading that I gave him, because it gave him the permission that he needed. And then there were these other beautiful people that they'd go, "Thank you so much," and next thing you know, they're hugging me, and I've touched their hearts and their lives have changed.
It's really interesting you're saying it. I had a conversation when I used to, my first job at the uni was translating, because I used to study in Hungary and I come from from Poland. So I kind of spoke the two languages, and the easiest summer job for a student was to work in tourism. And there were lots of people coming and going, and there was one lady who was really nice, and she's from Ukraine. And in the whole post-Soviet bloc, there are a lot of people who have talent in understanding other areas of brain and other areas of spiritual world. I think there's lots of people, at least in Poland, coming from that side of the world, doing kind of becoming doctors and then healing people as well.
Yep.
And she was saying that she works with what did she say? Disabled people, because she worked in a company providing jobs for disabled people. So she's not practicing because she had ability to see back to the second generation and then see kind of in the future to the second generation. And we had lots of conversations about how she handles things she knows, for example. So if she knows that someone's going to pass away in let's say half a year, does she tell them? You know, it's a really hard question.
Oh, I've been there, done that.
And she said there was one. She said she has a rule of not saying anything that makes her life easier. And job, you know, you have to have certain rules. She broke the rule once when she met a scientist who told her that he suspects, or I think he knew he had a cancer or something, and he wanted to finish a book. And he wasn't sure if he should continue or not. He didn't know if he has enough of time. So she said that was the only time when she actually told him what she thinks she can see, and helped him to finish the book kind of in peace, you know, to make sure that he can actually finish it off. But I thought, oh my God, these are really, really difficult ethical dilemmas people have.
Oh, you'd be
amazed. It's just such a huge responsibility.
Yeah, you'd be amazed at what we get asked. The typical one is, oh, do you think, you know, is my partner my soulmate?
Oh, wow.
And I had a person recently, I won't use a time frame for privacy reasons, who was about to get married. And they're still pining over a lost love.
Oh, no.
And that came through in the reading, and because their heart chakra was so blocked, and I could see it was an old energy that had been sitting there. It was like this old love that was wasted. And it was sort of, well, I've got to share that with you, and that person is one of the people that doesn't like me.
Oh.
Because I could see their truth. But on the positive side of it, if they go ahead with their marriage and it doesn't work, well, they were warned. If they don't go ahead with their marriage and they get on with their life, then I may have saved them from an abusive situation.
Yeah.
So they've got choices to make. Oh, look, there's always a dilemma, but what you've got to do is be real and honest. The first tarot reading I did for someone 20 odd years ago was for an old friend who, if you find me on Facebook, she's actually listed as my sister now. We're just like family because we're so close now. And I did the reading, and it was sort of, I have to tell you, someone's going to die. I keep hearing someone's going to die. And she said, oh, who is it? And I said, and I could tell it was a female energy, but I couldn't bring myself to say it's a female energy. Now, I was 20 years younger. Okay. And so I said, oh, yeah, look, there's, and then she goes, oh, that'll be Uncle Bill. He's had cancer, and it's been in remission, but he's been sick. And I went, yeah, that'll be him, yeah, it's him, knowing full well it wasn't. 9 weeks later, the hair on the back of my head stood up as I felt a ghost come into the room, walk through my house, come back out to me, and as I adjusted my vision, I could see it was a little old lady. And I said to her, hi, do you have a message for me? And she said, yeah. ring this person. And I went, fine, do you have any other messages? And she said, no. And I said, thank you, please leave. She left. I picked up the phone, dialed my friend. She picked up the phone. She knew it was me. And back then there was no such thing as caller ID. These were dial phones as well. And I said to her, so why did I have a ghost visit me? Now, she used a 4-letter word of exclamation that we won't say on the video. You're seeing her too. And I went, I'm seeing who? And she went, oh yeah, you didn't know. 3 weeks after your reading, yeah, Mum was out hanging the washing out and she dropped down dead. We keep seeing her around the house.
Oh,
and
wow.
I said, oh. And she goes, we don't know why she won't leave. And I said, sell the house. She goes, what? I said, sell the house. Split the money. It's there for both of you. It's there for you to set yourselves up. Then Mum will go. How do you know we've been fighting over selling the house? I went, hello, I've just had a ghost visit me. Run with it.
All right.
That moment on, because her and her sister kept seeing Mum in the chairs around the house. And it was freaking them out. They'd see this energy, this ghostly energy, sitting in a chair. Anyway, the next day they put the house on the market and Mum wasn't seen since.
Wow.
And I just went, yeah, how do I handle this? If I'm going to have this sort of information come through, how do I handle it?
So let's just talk a little bit about that, Jayc. In a lot of people that are actually learning about the new energies and actually seeing things, some of those processes are fairly scary for them anyway.
Oh yeah.
In some of that can be quite a horrific experience. Am I normal? What is normal? What sort of things am I on my own doing that? Have been some of the things that I've heard.
Yeah, look, the challenge for everybody is we're at a point where it's time to create our own beliefs. See, if you look at spirituality over the centuries, they've all been designed around the church methodologies. Well, they were, but then these other spiritual experiences through witchcraft and so on were coming through in the paganism. And you've got these different modalities that were growing with change. And today, with technology bringing us all closer, and I think it being more acceptable, I mean, we don't get hung or burnt at the stake now, fortunately, like we used to. It's a bit more accessible now. Am I not in shot?
Yeah, you're in shot. No, I'm just saying.
Okay.
No, it's fine. Don't worry.
That's all right.
We're ready for that. It's okay. It's a very interesting question, and I like what Michael said as well. It's kind of, because from another angle looking at it, there's a lot of people in the UK, in our area, who have problems, mental issues, and they have, just in our here in the area, we have kids who kind of struggle with seeing have proper mental disorders. There's some kind of a pressure. There's a study that every fourth boy in high school has some issues that are society-based, so parents can't really do anything about it. So there's some kind of a crisis of values happening. And I guess for those people, it's going to be really hard it's very hard anyway to see the boundaries between normal and the moment where something clicks in their head and they need to start handling it, going to the doctor and admitting that they have a problem. And on the other side, you have people who are very sensitive, like yourself, and they have special abilities. And it might be very difficult. You probably have experience with other people like yourself who discover
yeah.
these abilities, what is the point when they realize this is something they have to actually pick up and develop and dive into, if that's the right word?
For people who
How do you recognize
discover,
that you have this ability?
oh, I recognize I've got the ability, and I've tried to squash it and conform to society for all these years. And it's only in the last few years now that I've sort of gone, no, I can't do this anymore. But I've still battled with it until the end of last year, when I went, no more. I mean, I used to have a web hosting business, and just recently I've closed it down, got rid of all my clients, not building websites for anyone. I'm shutting down that side of my world so that I can embrace who I actually am. Even though society looks at me and goes, well, you should be, you've got computer skills, so you should be sitting behind a desk at a computer, teaching people and doing what you did before, because going to work for a 9 to 5. But that's not who I am. And so now what it is me being in my heart and living in my truth and helping people find what their truth is. And that's been the hardest part for a lot of people, is they look at what they think is their truth and they run with it. And I've seen this with a number of psychics. They run with it only to find they fall over, because they're not actually, they're meant to use those skills in the delivery of their life, not go out. See, everyone has psychic abilities. You have it, Michael has it. There isn't one person on this planet that doesn't have psychic abilities. Well, we just don't listen. A lot of people don't listen.
Perhaps we start to learn to listen, and it takes time to actually knock out the noggin stuff in your head.
It does. And then what happens is you listen and you go, oh, look, I'm getting all the psychic information. I should be a psychic. And then they go out and they...
of equating that as the social media mavens.
Oh, yes. Oh, how many Facebook social media gurus are there? Oh, good grief.
For the same reason. I saw a post today which was really interesting. It was about... being your own guru. It was quite interesting that this guy has a regular column each week, and he was saying, be your own guru. Don't worry about everyone else. I mean, Tony Robbins and the crew have made a lot of money, but he says it's time where you actually stand up and be your own guru.
Yeah, I do agree with that.
Yeah.
How do you develop your psychic abilities?
Start listening to your heart.
Well,
no, I'm being
serious. Go for it, Michael. But Michael's being serious. I was interviewed on a radio show about that exact question.
But how? What should I say? Let me put it this way. I believe I've studied a lot of Asian philosophies, and I'm very much of a kind of Japanese Zen person. So I'm very much tuned in with the nature and harmony, and when my life is out of balance and something goes wrong, I do see a lot of things happening around me. I know that when I'm more positive, things are more positive, and so on and so on. And I know I'm very sensitive, but at the same time, if I wanted to consciously develop that type of sensitivity, I wouldn't know what to do. Do I need to read books or meditate or practice or spend more time just sitting and thinking about it? I mean, what are the practical implications of someone who's willing to change this way?
Okay, the practical implications are really simple. One is, yes, meditate. Yes, read books. Yes, practice. You've actually said exactly what you need to do. But most importantly is to take the time to listen to yourself. And to listen to your own connection, to your source, to your guides, whatever you want to call them. Because what then happens is by you taking that time to just sit and be. So let me give you an example. I've got a personal issue that I'm working through at the moment. And it's been frustrating me, something chronic, for months. Well, actually years, if we're really going to my truth. It's been frustrating me for years. And so, again, last night, it bugged me. So this morning when I woke up, I meditated. And I took myself on a past life regression. And I went back through all my past lives. And I discovered an underlying pattern that has been going through those lives. And as I understood that pattern, I could see how the choices that I was making in each life were strengthening that pattern. And so in this life, as I make choices, see, I have some new choices coming up for me over the next few months, over the next year. I've got some amazing choices coming up. I'm now looking at those choices and going, are they feeding that past life pattern? Or are they empowering me in this life to have learnt that lesson? And this is when a lot of people find doing this work really confronting. Because if you look at all the, a lot of the psychics out there, and all the healers and the massage therapists, and I'm not trying to pick on the massage therapists, but I particularly want to highlight them. But in particular, all the spiritual healers, anyone who says they're doing healing and they're a spiritual healer, if they're overweight, sucking on cigarettes, in unstable, messed up relationships, heal yourself first. They're not being true. If you're, you know, this is the thing. You got to.
So can I just
talk.
for a second? Can I stop you for a second, because the same applies to social media gurus, because I happen to work in social media marketing, and we just talked with Michael the other day that I struggle with some of the social media professionals who haven't blogged for a year and they've already preaching about social media. And it's like, you know, or you actually practice what you're preaching, or you don't, you know.
We actually talk about that with the people that use Google Plus, and they call themselves social media gurus, social media mavens, and the like. And so we talk very extensively about that, is because one, they don't have any followers, two, they're not actually active, and yet they're actually out there writing guides for other people on how to work. And this is indicative of a lot of things that they're doing, and they're saying this is how good it is, but more at a point, they're not actually doing the work. Now, so the analogy is quite useful in many areas, in many layers. So it's really important to make this this whole thing work together. So, you know, the old rate, comment, subscribe, share, do all the rest of it. Share posts, share photos. You know, we saw the 360 photos; they're great. It's natural appreciation for other people and their work, and that's really important to be able to push around and make it work for everyone. As an example.
Yeah, and also, you know, I think, but it's a question of attitude, what type of a person you are. I still struggle, you know, we make a lot of bets with my colleagues, who's going to write a book about social media first. And then I always stop myself, because the more I think about it, the more I get into this negative spiral of, well, the more I learn, the less I know about it. I mean, it's just like trying to write down. Do you know, someone told me the other day, there used to be a book of internet websites, which for me is, as it is, it's an insane concept. In the UK, a year ago, I bought a magazine. I paid £10 for it, which listed all the most popular Twitter celebrities because of their stats. And I thought, well, the moment they've released the magazine, all the stats have changed. So what's the point of it? And I actually bought it just to have it. Foolishly enough, I just got it for the historical value of the book. Saying, you know, I'm going to show it to my kids and they're going to laugh in my face. But it's I think it applies to every profession. If you don't practice it, I mean, unless you're a teacher, when the profession is to talk about anything, you have methodology of, explaining things, explaining science, and the science is the explaining, not what you're explaining.
Yes.
Then, because I think a lot, especially at the universities, you have that's the problem that's happening. You have people who are brilliant in the science, but really rubbish at explaining it. So, no, it is a problem with the university system, because you do need scientists at the universities, for the grants and everything. But you also need people who will actually help students understand the science. So the two are different. But I completely agree with trying to understand. And now that you said about people who are healers, who are not necessarily, healthy themselves, it's a very interesting notion, because my son goes to Aikido lessons in Oxford.
Yes.
And people who teach him, I'm connected with one of them on Facebook, they are representing on a daily basis what Aikido is all about. They have their ups and downs. You can see it on Facebook. They have good days and bad days. And every time you meet them at the Aikido training for kids, they are the most cheerful, most happy and kind of positive people ever, because that's what they're giving to the kids. And it's just so good to see that they can pick themselves up and have this Japanese Zen balance, Life, it's this acceptance that life can be negative, but you have to do something about it and direct it to the more positive.
Yeah, I mean, I can agree that, we have good days and we have bad days. That's what life is all about. We have these beautiful emotional scale that we live in. I get angry, I get frustrated, I get sad, I get happy, I get joyous, and I go through all the emotions. And that to me is what life is about. But so many people have, especially a lot of the healers, they're going, oh, I'm going to be all spiritual and a healer, and because I'm all psychic, and I'm going to tell you what to do in your life. But the fact I'm living in a shack and I'm able to hide behind my internet connection, or I'm overweight, unhealthy, and unhappy, you just do as I tell you, not as I do. I remember my mum telling me that as a child. Do as I say, not as I do.
Not as I do.
Yeah.
Don't you remember that?
Oh, yes.
See, with my son, it always is actually the opposite. No matter what I say, he's going to copy what I do. And quite early I understood that I better pick myself up. So little things, I used to be very messy, like, drop my clothes on the floor, and I'm an artist, and I find this is my excuse. I'm very arty, and I like to have. My mum used to call it mess, and I used to call it artistic chaos when I was little.
I must interrupt you there. Did you hear? See, this is also what happens in my world. Remember a few minutes ago I told you a story about a lady whose mother came through and the message was clean up your room?
Yes.
Now you're telling me about your situation?
No, but it's the topic where, it's a very relevant topic, but what has changed since my son was born, and I realized that he's actually copying every little thing, even when he was tiny. I became really clean, and I know that the moment he's going to leave the house, I'll probably get back to my bad habits, or maybe my habits will change, because habits change. But I noticed that if I behave in a certain way, he's going to copy that. If I say that something should be done in a certain way, well, now he's bigger, but it just doesn't have that power of, you show an example, and that's it. And sometimes actually, I hear so language the same as certain expressions. I said something the other day, and he turned around and said, "Oh, you're just freaking me out." And I looked at him, "Where did you hear that?" And my boyfriend looks at me, "Where do you think he heard that?" And I never said it to my son. I always say it to like someone else, my age, because I don't think it's really nice to say to someone younger. It was so funny, and you just realize, oh my gosh, it's like constantly going radar. You have to be so careful what you do and how you do things. It's just so funny.
Oh yes.
So if children learn this way, I believe everyone does. So there's only so much you can do. And I for example, when I teach people how to use social media, because I do it to empower them to use technology wisely, and very often as a citizen journalist, I will tell them not to do it if I see they have a wrong approach or a brand that has a wrong product, and they would just open up to huge criticism before they actually fix it before that. People trust me not because I say I know what I'm doing. It's just because they Google my name and they see what I've been doing for years, and there's no testimonials. It's just the amount of stuff that's out there, and that kind of makes sense to them. If they see that I've actually been blogging since last, I don't know how many years, since university, which is like about almost 10 years now, then you can't argue with that. And
no,
if
well,
I
that's
tell
established credibility.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you make bread, it tastes good, then that means you know how to make bread. If you say you know how to make bread, it's not necessarily the truth.
That's an interesting analogy.
That was a very simplified analogy, I think. Very, very simplified analogy. You can overcomplicate that one, actually.
Oh, yes.
Because you can take a photo of you making bread. There you go.
Yeah. Or you could become the Gary Vaynerchuk and
there you go.
Do a video every day of a different type of bread.
Oh God, you made me hungry right now. I was just thinking about making bread. Sorry.
It's your analogy.
I know, because I have this book in here. I made my first bread. I struggled with the idea of making bread. I always did it wrong, and I'm very stubborn, and I don't ask for help. And then now that I have asked for help, a friend of mine from London who's a food blogger, I went to her house for a sleepover in London, and she showed me she was making bread. She knew I struggled with it, so step by step she showed me how to do it, and I did it, and yay, it worked. My landlady, they have a catering business. She gave me this very old-fashioned, I don't know if you can see it.
Yes.
English book about making bread with the history of how bread was made.
Wow.
So it's so great. I have it on the kitchen table, and every time we have breakfast, I'm just kind of reading into it. It's great. So yeah, the bread topic comes up quite a lot. Bread and coffee.
I used to bake bread as well when I was living with my ex. We'd make a spelt loaf, and most of the time it worked out really well, and then one day it just was a bit of a disaster. And I spoke to the people who made the bread mix that I was using, and they asked me, what was the temperature of your water? And I went, well, it was, just a little bit warm. And they said, no, you've activated the yeast too soon.
Oh, wow.
Make sure your water isn't room temperature water. That's too active. That's too warm.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
So it just comes out of the tap, and so it might feel cold to you, but it's warm to the yeast.
But you're talking about real yeast, not the powdered yeast.
No, powdered yeast.
Okay. Now, see, that's why I struggled, because nowadays in the UK I can't get the real yeast. I understood how the real yeast works, and I didn't understand the powder one. I have a strong aversion to things that are already made and superficial, so I don't know how they work. Like the physics of powders and ready-made meals, and and it took me years to understand that I actually have to do what's written on the box and not question it. So when you heat up a lasagna and it says 30 minutes in 200 degrees, you actually have to do that and just get on and do it. And I would open the oven, test it, is it good? Because in the old times that's how people used to make food. It's so silly.
Yep.
But now the adventure of bread has started in our house, so we'll be making more of it. And our town, which is about 40 minutes on the bus, is the only place in the Shire near Oxford that has a private mill. So they make some really amazing flowers.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be beautiful.
Yeah, they make like tomato and garlic flour and apple and cinnamon. Oh.
Oh.
Yeah. It's great. Right. We need to wrap it up, don't we?